Inside a prison van, a woman is deep in thought, while a female prison guard tries to tease her.
Tu la veux? Mets-la. Mets-la, maintenant. T'enlèves ça. Tu la mets.
But before the female prisoner could react, the female guard pulled her into her arms.
D'accord. Alors toi, maintenant, tu vas me donner du pouce. Okay?
At this moment, the women in the van were wailing loudly. The two guards outside looked nervous. But just then, a car suddenly drove up on the road. One of the guards immediately opened the van door.
Dépêche-toi, quelqu'un arrive. Ta gueule, ferme cette porte tout de suite, bordel! Ferme! Ferme!
The passing driver was just asking for directions. But unexpectedly, they heard cries for help from inside the van. The drivers sensed that something was deeply wrong. They step out of their car, asking if help is needed. But before they can get an answer, a woman in handcuffs leaps from the van. Fearing exposure, the guards threaten the drivers, ordering them to leave. But using the distraction, the woman makes a desperate run for it, towards the distant hillside. The guards immediately give chase. Her flight ends at the edge of the sea. There was nowhere left to run. In the end, she is returned to the prison. Her punishment for the attempt: solitary confinement in a small dark cell. The woman's name is Jeon, and before her life was turned upside down, she was a completely ordinary woman, raising a daughter with her husband, Jeon-bae. Together, the couple ran a small car repair shop. Their life wasn't wealthy, but it was content. It was enough. The problem was her husband's generous and ultimately fatal sense of loyalty. He was a man who couldn't say no to a friend, even at his own family's expense. And that unwavering loyalty would be weaponized against them. A friend, needing a guarantor for a massive loan, deceived him about the true amount. When that same friend couldn't repay the debt, he took his own life, leaving behind an impossible burden. And now, as the legal guarantor, he had no choice. The entire debt was his to repay.
2억이요? 무슨... 저 딱 5천만 원만 보증 선 거라고요. 아니, 두세 달만 융통하면 된다고 하더라고. 근데 내가 어떻게 모른 척을 해.
2억을 보증 섰다고
아니, 5천이라니까. 아니, 어떻게 몇 달째 이자가... 아니, 이게 말이 됩니까, 이게?
To repay the debt, the couple sold everything they had. Their shop, their home. They moved into a tiny, cramped room in a poor part of the city. The most painful casualty of their new life was their daughter's favorite toy, which they were forced to leave behind on a pile of garbage. But even after sacrificing everything, it wasn't nearly enough. And into this absolute desperation, a friend named Mundu offered what sounded like an escape. A simple job: fly to France and bring back what he claimed was precious stones. The reward was a fast and easy 50 million won. Mundu assured them it was a simple round trip. 2, maybe 3 days at the most. A perfect and tempting solution to all their problems.
일수는 무슨? 아니, 걸리면 세금 내면 되는 거고, 안 걸리면
Gracias.
아니, 우리가 왜 세관 좋은 일 시키냐고. 응?
걸려도 세금만 내면 된다.
그렇지.
아주 가만히 좀 있어봐. 문도가 우리 어떻게 좀 도와보려고 그러는 거잖아.
Faced with an impossible debt and clinging to the empty promises of a so-called friend, Jeon-bae makes a fateful decision. He silences his wife's frantic objections and agrees to the desperate gamble. He makes the call to Mundo to accept the offer. But on the other end of the line, Mundo reveals a final, critical detail. A detail that shifts the entire burden. The job was only for a woman.
왜 그래 정말.
내가 알아서 한다고.
알아서 한다는 사람이 한 번만 나랑 의논했어도.
의논했음. 네가 그거 하라고 했을 거야? 내가 병신 같은 새끼라 너랑 혜린이 이런 그지 같은 데 데리고 왔다. 어? 내가 생각도 없고 뭣도 없는 놈이라 네가 악착같이 먼저 다 날리고 집세도 못 내고 집주인한테 별 얘기 다 듣겠다. 어?
당신 끝까지 잘했다는 거지?
수자 새끼 죽었잖아. 그 새끼도 그러고 싶었겠냐고. 에이씨.
어디가?
After a bitter argument, her husband disappears for days, and Jeon is left alone with the crushing weight of their family's fate. She fights with herself, weighs every impossible option, but in the end, she sees no other way out. She compromises with their harsh reality. So, she is the one who makes the call to Mundu. She is the one who agrees to the job. But before leaving, she takes her daughter out, buying her new clothes and a few small toys. A quiet, final afternoon together. Then she leaves a note for her husband.
왜 지금 가출한 거야?
What felt like a desperate solution would quickly become a point of no return. At the airport in France, Jeon follows her contact, ready to board the flight home. But just as they approach the gate, she is suddenly surrounded. A woman who has never been out of her own country is now cornered by foreign police, shouting in a language she cannot understand. She looks to her contact for an explanation, but he bolts. The chaos of the moment, the shouting, the barking of a police dog, confirms a terrifying new reality. Inside her suitcase, they find no precious stones, only 30 kilograms of raw, illegal drugs. And in that instant, Jeon, the housewife, vanishes. In her place stands a newly labeled international drug trafficker.
잠깐만. 저기. people.
Her new home is now a French prison. Soon after, a familiar face arrives. Mundo's girlfriend has also been brought in. For a moment, there is a flicker of hope. Someone who knows the truth. But she brings no comfort, only blame. She reveals that Mundo has vanished and accuses Jeon of being the informant. And in a cruel twist of injustice, lacking hard evidence against her, the French authorities simply deport the girlfriend back to Korea, leaving Jeon utterly alone. She turns to her last remaining hope, the Korean embassy. Pleading for help, she asks the ambassador what to do. He offers no salvation, only a cold, bureaucratic judgment.
정말 마약인지 몰랐어요. 저 그냥 집에서 살림하는 여자예요. 딸도 있고. 한국에 전환통만 하게 해주세요. 남편 저 여기 와 있는 것도 몰라요.
마약범은 외부 통화 금지입니다.
그러면 저기 대신 전화 좀 부탁드릴게요. 제가 여기 있는 건 알려야 되잖아요. 이렇게 같은 한국 사람끼리 부탁드릴게요.
전 프랑스 검찰청 소속이에요. 감옥 가면 편지 쓰세요. 직접.
The devastating news finally reaches Jong-bae. He rushes to the police, desperate for help, for any information. But he finds no allies there, only suspicion. The police don't see a worried husband. They see a potential accomplice. He's told that if his wife is a drug trafficker, then he is now a suspect. He is forced to submit to a drug test on the spot. Helpless, he turns to his young daughter and tells a small, necessary lie, that he's just going to the restroom and will be right back. But just as he turns away, an officer calls his name.
여기서 받아요.
예?
아니 우리 보는 데서 받으라고. 물 타오면 말짱 꽝이잖아.
아무리 그래도 그렇지 여기서.
저기 저쪽 구석에 가서 돌아서서 보면 되겠네. 자 여기다가 머리카락도 좀 뽑고.
For Jong-bae, the sting of this humiliation felt 100 times more painful than poverty. He takes his desperation to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, hoping to find someone, anyone, who will help. But he's told that his wife's case is a national disgrace. Before the line goes dead, he is handed a phone number and is essentially told he is on his own. Miles away, the Korean consul in France sees the case not as a citizen in distress, but as a bureaucratic headache. He chooses the path of least resistance. On the surface, he sent a representative to the prison. The representative from the embassy arrives, but not to listen. He dismisses Do-yeon's frantic explanations, uninterested in the truth. Instead, his only goal is a signature. He shoves a document in front of her. A letter, ironically, stating that she's being treated fairly. With that done, he casually tosses a toothbrush and toothpaste in her direction. A token gesture, devoid of any real comfort. In his eyes, this isn't a citizen in distress, but a national embarrassment to be processed and forgotten as quickly as possible. And as he turns to leave, his duty officially complete. Do-yeon makes one last, desperate plea.
제발, 제발, 금방요. 잠깐이면 돼요. 한 번만, 네, 딱 1분만요.
The cruelty from her own country's representative is so apparent, it earns Do-yeon a moment of unexpected sympathy from the French police. After 20 days of agonizing silence, she is finally granted a single, precious phone call home, a lifeline to the world she left behind. But the line is busy, again and again, because on the other side of the world, her husband is also trapped in his own frantic fight, desperately calling anyone he knows for help. For Do-yeon, every second of that wait must feel like an eternity. After a long wait, the call finally connected.
여보세요?
당신 무슨 전화 이렇게 오래 붙들고 있어?
당신이야? 어디야 너? 어떻게 된 거냐고?
몰라서 그래 지금?
야 거기가 어디라고 해? 네 멋대로 겁도 없이 따라가.
혜린이는 나 많이 찾지? 혜린이 어떻게 옆에 있어?
잠깐만. 차에. 잠깐만. 야.
어떡해. 당신 미쳐서 도대체 왜 그래? 여보, 혜린이 좀 빨리.
야 잠깐만.
수지 씨 한국으로 추방됐어.
뭐? 그 여자는 나왔다고?
그리고 나 재판 받으려면 4개월이나 걸렸어.
아 그러니까 왜 나한테 물어보지도 않고 갔냐고.
여기 왜 나 몰래 보증을 서주냐고. 여보.
홍정희 씨, 3분 됐습니다.
여보세요? 혜린아 엄마야. 혜린아 안녕하세요. 네. 엄마야 여보 혜린 엄마 여보.
In the end, Do-yeon and her daughter didn't even get to say a word. The calling time was up. Frantic, Jong-bae calls the embassy directly, demanding to know why his wife's trial is still months away. And on the other end of that desperate plea is a man sitting comfortably in his office chair.
여기 변호사부터 구하세요. 그래야 모든 게 빨라요. 재판 결과도 좋고. 저희가 이쪽 교도소하고 수시로 커뮤니케이션하면서 잘 챙길 테니까 너무 염려 마시고요. 일단 변호사 비용부터 빨리 준비하세요.
After the call, a rare flicker of conscience prompts the official to approach the consul's office. He makes a suggestion. A petition to the French government that could potentially free Do-yeon until her trial date. But the consul isn't concerned with justice. He's concerned with a budget. He explains that if they did that, the embassy would be financially responsible for her during the entire investigation. Why create more trouble for ourselves? He asks. Are you willing to be her caretaker? The junior official can do nothing but offer a forced, submissive smile.
그 아줌마 고생 좀 하겠네요.
2 months into her sentence, Do-yeon is transferred again, this time to a women's prison on a remote island, Martinique, a world away from her world, surrounded by faces she doesn't know, and a language she doesn't understand. Her days become a cycle of abuse and starvation. At night, a forced sleeping pill offers no real rest. Only the gnawing hunger remains, a hunger so deep it forces her to scavenge for crumbs on the floor like a frightened animal. Meanwhile, on the other side of the planet, her family is living its own version of hell. Every call Jong-bae makes to the embassy is met with the same empty promises. He's told they need a lawyer he has no money to pay for. So he works every odd job he can find, just to survive. His only hope is to find Mundu, but at the police station, no one will help him. He's completely on his own, with his daughter's care now an impossible burden. He is forced to rely on the kindness of strangers. He is a good man, pushed to the absolute edge. Back in Martinique, after 4 long months, a piece of news arrives. An announcement in a language she can't understand, but she feels the meaning in her bones. Her detention has been extended. The one small mercy is a chance to send a single letter home, requesting help from her family. And so, she wrote a letter and sent it to her husband, Jong-bae. In the letter, she told her husband she was in a women's prison in Martinique. The sweltering island heat adds a new layer to her daily misery. She writes to her husband, pleading for basic necessities, even clothes. And it's in this small, simple act of packing that Jong-bae is confronted with a heartbreaking truth. He sees how worn her old clothes are, a silent testament to the years of quiet hardship she endured alongside him. Every letter she writes to the embassy, every plea for help, is met with the same cold indifference. They are thrown away, unread. Her own government has erased her, and even the clothes her husband painstakingly sends are stolen by a predatory guard before they can even reach her. This guard's cruelty eventually pushes Jeon to a desperate act, an escape, a frantic run through the dense island jungle, where a sliver of sunlight through the trees feels like the first glimmer of hope she's had in months. Her flight from hell ends in a paradise, a white, sandy beach, stretching out to a boundless, brilliant blue sea, the Caribbean, the very place her husband had promised to take her for their 10th anniversary. Here, surrounded by a beauty she could only ever dream of, she feels nothing but the overwhelming, urgent desire to be home. Her brief taste of freedom is, of course, short-lived. Not only is she caught, she is now falsely labeled a violent escapee. Her reward for a moment of desperate hope is the darkest, most isolated corner of the prison, solitary confinement, and then one day, a breakthrough. News arrives from home. Mundo has finally been arrested. Jong-bae immediately rushes to the police station. He pleads with the man who ruined their lives, begging him to save his wife, to tell the court the truth, that his wife knew nothing about the contents of that suitcase. And in a rare moment of conscience, Mundo agrees. In court, he admits that Jong-yoon was an unwitting pawn, completely innocent. The truth is finally out. But when Jong-bae asks the presiding judge what to do next, he is met with a cold dismissal. Go ask the embassy. But in that bleak moment, another judge, overhearing the exchange, quietly calls him over.
오늘한 재판 기록을 파리 대사관으로 보내면은 거기서 번역하고 공증해서 프랑스 법원으로 넘겨요. 그러면은 정식으로 재판을 받게 될 겁니다.
Jong-bae finally sees a light at the end of the tunnel. He writes to his wife immediately, sharing the incredible news of Mundo's confession. He calls the embassy, urging them to translate and forward the official court documents as soon as they arrive. The official, of course, is annoyed at being told how to do his job. But the couple doesn't care. They are overwhelmed with relief. They believe their nightmare is finally coming to an end. But a nightmare it remains. When the document containing Mundo's confession arrives at the embassy, it is carelessly stuffed into a cabinet. Buried under a pile of newer, more important files, it is eventually, unthinkably, thrown out with the garbage. the single piece of paper that could have set her free, is gone. While Jong-yoon waits anxiously in her cell, and Jung-bae calls the embassy day after day, only to be told the document never arrived, a cruel bureaucratic error seals her fate. Months later, she is told the news. Her detention is being extended once again, because the French court never received the evidence of her innocence.
주스몽! 주스몽! 몽 주스몽! 몽 주스몽 impossible. 왜냐면 because 서문도 잡혔고 주스몽 몽 주스몽
Gardez votre calme, madame. Nous faisons tout notre possible. Your embassy is bad. Your embassy has no responsibility.
Ask for a translator to your embassy. Okay?
A full year passes. French law finally dictates that Jong-yeon be released on parole. But this isn't freedom. It's just a larger prison, a dilapidated house on an island at the edge of the world. But she refuses to give up hope. On the wall, she hangs a map of the world and draws a single, stubborn line from her remote island back to Korea. For her, the simple words, "the way back home," have become an impassable chasm. In Korea, her husband has also run out of patience. He abandons pleading with the embassy and chooses to fight. With the help of a friend, his wife's story is posted online, and it explodes. Faced with a sudden public relations disaster, the embassy can no longer ignore them. The consul realizes he has a problem he can no longer brush aside. He only agrees to visit Martinique himself when his subordinate mentions that the island is a perfect place to escape the summer heat. When they finally arrive at the dilapidated house, they aren't there to help. They shamelessly praise her open-air prison as a beautiful place for a vacation. And that final callous remark is the one that finally breaks her.
저 재판은 언제 받게 되나요?
아니 왜 자꾸 이렇게 조바심 내고 그러면서 나 어차피 금방 나가고 그러는 거 아니니까.
예?
왜 몰랐나? 마약사범은 여기서도 워낙 중죄예요. 단순 운반만 해도 까딱하면 10년 넘는다고.
The official patronizingly tells her to relax, to think of her confinement not as a prison, but as a quiet retreat for self-reflection. After delivering this final insult, he turns to leave, his duty complete. But this time Jong-yoon refuses to let them walk away. When words fail, desperation takes over. She falls to her knees.
죄송합니다. 잘못했어요. 제가 죽일년이에요. 대한민국 얼굴에 먹칠한 거 평생 반성하면서 살겠습니다. 그러니 제발 영사님, 저 한국 교도소로 보내주세요. 내보내달라는 거 아니잖아요.
완전 마음을 다스리시라니까. 그래야 남편이 마음 편히 돈 벌어서 빚도 갚고 방 한 칸이라도 구하고.
The consul offers a final, dismissive insult. A few francs tossed onto the table, as if she were a problem money could solve. And hearing his lie, that she would be trapped here for another 10 years, the last of Jong-yoon's resilience shatters. Believing all hope is lost, she writes a final letter to her husband, telling him to stop fighting and to take care of their daughter. She walks to the edge of the world, the shores of the Caribbean Sea, the same beach her husband had once promised her for their anniversary. A dream destination, now her chosen place to die. Her attempt fails. She is found and revived, saved from a death she chose for herself. When news of his wife's suicide attempt reaches him, something in Jung-bae snaps. Pleading is over. Reason has failed. Refused again by the embassy, he decides to use the only currency he has left, his own life. His radical act of desperation, the threat of setting himself on fire in public, is captured by the media. And it works. The story explodes, finally catching the attention of a journalist who sees the truth. He offers to fund the trip to France himself, in exchange for the rights to their story. And so, finally, Jeon arrives in Martinique. After a year of hell on opposite sides of the globe, they are finally reunited. But this tearful reunion isn't the end of their journey. The goal was to go home. With the family reunited, the journalist begins his own investigation. And what he uncovers is a simple, damning pattern of institutional failure. He goes to the French court, and the judge tells him they've been waiting for months, for a verdict from Korea that never arrived. He goes to the prison warden, who says he's been completely in the dark. He received no official communication, no updates. Not even a translator was provided. The trail of negligence leads directly back to one place, the Korean embassy. There, in a final confrontation, the consul tries to save face, claiming the document was sent long ago. He even produces a copy. But Jeon asks one simple, devastating question. Where is the receipt? The proof that the court actually received it? The consul, furious at being challenged, orders his subordinate to find it, confident he can crush this inconvenient man once and for all. But after a long, desperate search, nothing. The receipt doesn't exist.
여기 있네. 사람 이거. 이건 아니네. 이게 그 영수증이 중요한 게 아닙니다. 일단 서류 보냈으면 그럼 그거 다 된 거예요. 그잖아요.
뭐야? 내가 한 번만 확인해달라고 몇 번을 부탁했습니까?
이 사람이 지금 어디서 지금 아유 카메라 치워요. 치워요. 치워.
카메라 치워주세요.
아유 뭘 자꾸 찍어?
이거 정말 참.
왜 이래? 좀 말려. 안 돼. 나랑 좀 하셔. 아니 폭력적으로 왜 이래? 좀 말려줘. 아니 저기 전화 받았지 너.
좀 말려.
내 전화 받았지.
The consul's final move is intimidation. He visits Jeon, threatening to use all his power to keep her imprisoned if her husband doesn't back down. Back in Korea, the journalist receives a similar warning from the government, an official order to kill the story, to protect the nation's image. But they have underestimated the power of the truth. Refusing to be silenced, the journalist uploads the documentary of their trip to France online, and it ignites a firestorm. The story of a Korean mother, forgotten and abandoned by her own government, becomes a national outrage. That single lost document, it wasn't just a piece of paper. It was tantamount to locking away an innocent woman's life. It was tantamount to imprisoning one of their own citizens. It was tantamount to shattering a family's last hope of ever being whole again. And this time, the people of Korea were finally angry. Their collective outrage, channeled through the internet, becomes a deafening roar, one that the government can no longer ignore. Under immense public pressure, they are forced to act. The corrupt consul and his subordinate are dismissed from their posts. A new verdict of innocence is written. A proper lawyer and translator are finally assigned to her case. And Jeon, after 2 years lost in a foreign land, will finally have her day in court. In court, the case is clear. Mun-do, the true criminal, testifies that she was an innocent victim. The lawyer argues passionately for her release. The facts are all laid out. The verdict seems certain. The judge asks Jeon if she has anything to add. And at this moment, after years of being spoken for, ignored, and silenced, after relying on the kindness of strangers, the courage of her husband, and the anger of a nation, she finds her own voice.
Bien, dans ce cas, le tribunal rendra son délibéré dans 10 minutes.
저는 죄를 지었습니다. 돈을 벌겠다는 욕심과 무지 때문에 죄를 지었습니다. 저는 죄인입니다. 그래서 지난 2년 동안 그 죄에 대한 용서를 빌었습니다. 하지만 제가 용서를 빌어야 할 사람들이 또 있습니다. 제 가족들, 아내를 잃은 남편, 엄마 없이 자라야 했던 제 딸. 제 딸이 벌써 6살입니다. 제가 딸을 두고 떠날 때 겨우 4살이었는데 5살이 되고 6살이 됐습니다. 저는 제 딸에게 지울 수 없는 상처를 입혔습니다. 돌아가서 그 죄를 갚고 싶습니다. 제발 저희 가족에게 아내와 엄마를 돌려주세요. 저 집으로 돌아가고 싶습니다. 집으로 rentrez chez moi. Je veux rentrer chez moi.
In her final address to the court, there is no resentment, no indignation, only the quiet, urgent plea of a woman who just wants to go home, a desire that has sustained her through 2 years of unimaginable hardship. Due to the unique circumstances of her case, the French court sentences her to 1 year in prison, and because she has already served 2, she is free to go. After 756 days trapped in a foreign land, the long way home is finally open. That road is not just a physical journey. For 2 years, it was the only light burning in the darkness. It was a road she would never tire of, no matter how many times she traveled it in her mind. It was a road she would never give up on, no matter how far. And it was a road she would never fear, no matter how late. Because she knew, at the other end of that road, was a family waiting for her. The final destination is home. She steps off the plane and into her husband's arms. But her daughter, now a little older, hides shyly behind her father's leg, because after 2 long years, the face of her mother has become a vague and distant memory.
혜린아, 부끄러워? 엄마잖아. 엄마야, 가봐.
엄마는 혜린이 안 까먹었는데 혜린이 엄마 까먹었구나. 맞아.
사랑한단 그 말 다 믿었어.
진짜 엄마 맞아요?
나 진짜 엄마 맞아요. 너는 아무렇지 않겠던
엄마 맞아요. 엄마 맞아요.
다른 사람
엄마 맞아요.
나는 끝까지
엄마 맞아요.
모른 척했어.
보고 싶었어.
같은 느낌을
엄마 너무 늦게 와서 미안해, 에리나.
거짓말보다 아팠어. 네 진심이 더 넓지 않았어. 널 사랑한단 그 입술로 왜 다른 사랑을 속삭였니. 눈물도 하지 말아서 우리조차 남아있지 않아.
Perhaps that's a truth about human nature. When we lean on others, we sometimes forget our own strength. But when we are forced to stand alone, we discover we are tougher than we ever imagined. In a trial like this, there is no room for self-indulgent sorrow. It is a forge that burns away everything but the essentials, the quiet loneliness of a single room, and the stubborn hope for a better tomorrow. Those 2 years transformed them all. It was a victory forged in her unwavering resilience, in her husband's refusal to give up, and in their daughter's patient longing, which tied them all together across the impossible distance. And it reminds us that home is not a luxurious place. It is a feeling, a sanctuary, built not with walls, but with the quiet comfort of being with those who allow us to take off life's masks and simply be ourselves. Jong-yoon's family takes a picture amidst the falling snow. At this moment, the pure beauty of the white snow showers their happy family. I wonder if snow can cover up the pain and suffering they have experienced in this cruel and cold world. Tell the story with heart. Tell the story with sincerity. I'm Pixielow journeying with you, so we both may grow. See you in the next video.